Okay, perfect. Hi, everybody. So I'm here today to follow on from Mel's presentation. And as she said, a great sort of synergy there, alignment. I'm going to be talking to you today about how divorce and separation can affect work capabilities. And I'm going to be talking about that from the perspective of a divorce coach and how we as coaches can support our clients and really what that looks like for our clients in terms of their work capabilities. But of course, everything I'm saying, if you're here today and you are somebody going through this journey, then there's lots and lots here that you can take away and is just as applicable as it is to a divorce coach, just in a different way. So a little bit about me, I suppose, before I start. I trained with the DCA, but prior to doing that, I was a teacher, and I was a teacher for many, many years. I went on from teaching into academia and have studied and published in the area of psychology. I've then gone on to carry on with my research because I think they're so important to make change. And I currently am a doctoral researcher alongside my work here with Frank Conversations. I do work with one-to-one clients, but the majority of my work is now helping organisations to better support their staff. So I've got a few different things that I do, but they're all intertwined and interlinked. So I thought I would start today by sharing a story of Sally. Now, Sally is somebody who, when she came to me, her world was absolutely exploding around her. To the outside world and to her work and to her home, everything looked normal. But if you went just a tiny little bit deeper, everything that she knew to be true about the world, about life, about love and morality, motherhood, her purpose, it was utterly exploding. It was like Armageddon. She had married her childhood sweetheart and they'd been together for many decades. But in this transition that she was going through of separation and divorce, she had started to lose all faith in herself, in her emotions, in her physicality, in everything. And slowly that began to seep out at work. Now, she was very well regarded at work. How would I describe her? She's a lovely, bubbly, friendly person. She goes above and beyond to help her colleagues. And because of this, she'd gone well up the corporate ladder and she'd secured a really great job running a team in an organization. Now, as her personal life was taking the battering that it was, she began to question, if I can get my life partner wrong, if I can get that choice wrong, which is what she felt, although of course we went on to unpick that, then what am I getting wrong at work? What decisions am I making for my team, in my team, that are wrong? She started to doubt her ability, but more than that, she started to doubt her sense of self-worth. Now, one day she got to work and she just couldn't get out the car. She just couldn't face going ahead into her workplace. And this shocked her too. Who is this woman? Who is this person? So we know from coaches that divorce and separation penetrates every single aspect of your life, and work is no exception. So what do the statistics tell us? Let's have a look. So in a survey carried out by the Parenting Promise just last year, we know that a whopping 95% of individuals going through separation and divorce suffered mental health issues at work. Now, I would take an educated guess that those mental health issues are all linked to the statistics you see below that, because work performance is impacted, efficiency is impacted, taking time off work is impacted, and a huge 11% of people reported they had to stop work altogether. The one thing that I want to draw out of these statistics just now is the 39% that had to take time off work. Now, it doesn't matter in terms of your job whether you are doing hands-on work, so whether you're the person that's actually doing whatever it might be, carpentry, you're maybe an electrician, or if you're somebody running a corporate team, on the outside of work, whether you want to or not, during separation and divorce, you are project managing a project of seismic concern. The project that you are managing outside of work, as in your divorce, is going to have long-term direct impact on your life. You are having to manage an array of professionals, lawyers, financial advisors, pension experts, all kinds of things. Perhaps you have no skill in doing this. Perhaps the marriage has ended through no fault of their own. It was maybe infidelity. They weren't expecting it. But it doesn't matter. The point is they are having to manage this. The time required, it's no surprise that time is needed away from the workplace. So let's delve a little bit deeper. So what are we going to look at today? We're going to have a little look at the notion of presenteeism, absenteeism, and I'm going to explain what those both mean if they're not familiar terms. We're going to look at the mental load, but obviously the mental load going through separation divorce is huge. So I'm just going to look at the impact of financial concerns. There are lots of physical impacts, and we're going to look at the health impacts in a work context. And the last thing we're going to do is just touch on coping mechanisms and what we as divorce coaches can do. And really, what I want to caveat this whole talk with is the statistics are really shocking. The journey of separation and divorce is brutal beyond words. And I don't intend to not illustrate that. But what is so important is to state that this is transitionary. This is not a permanent state. This is a season in somebody's life. And the reason that I do this work and that I'm so passionate about it, particularly where work is concerned, is because with the right support, people will come out of this journey stronger, more resilient, and more capable than they ever knew possible. And that is really incredible for us as professionals to see that in our clients. So let's start first. Presenteeism. This might be a term that you've heard. What does it mean? Now, the actual term means showing up to work without being productive. Now, we will have all experienced this in some capacity. We will have turned up at work with a headache, feeling under the weather. And that's what it means. You're turning up and you're not really doing what you need to do in the way that you need to do it. But my goodness, doesn't this take on a different level when you're navigating divorce? And here are just 4 reasons of many that can happen. Heightened stress, reduced mental clarity. And because of those, you have decreased job satisfaction and lack of engagement. All of those combined can lead to professional relationship discords. So let's dig a bit deeper. What does heightened stress and emotion look like in the workplace? So because of everything you're having to manage, that project that I managed, that you're managing that I mentioned, you're trying to manage that while manage the normal demands of your job, alongside all the emotions. And if you've got children, you're dealing with their emotions. And over time, this can lead to absolute and utter exhaustion, which in turn leads to that inefficiency. So heightened emotions and stress is one thing, but they have an impact. Now, one of those impacts is the reduced mental clarity. When you are project managing your life, it's almost like, and we will all know this, it's almost like going through this experience. You are not in control of your life. You are not in control of where your children go. You are not going to be in control of how your finances are divided. Yes, you have some authority, and that's where we come in to deliver empowerment and clarity. But when you're in it, it's like a big storm a lot of the time. And that creates difficulty in concentrating, decision-making, problem-solving. And of course, that leads to an inability to focus. How can you make informed decisions at work when really you're trying to figure out if you're going to be able to have enough money to be able to stay in your home with your children? It makes perfect sense. But this decrease in productivity leads to an increase in errors and difficulty in meeting expectations. So what does that lead to? That leads to decreased job satisfaction, which in itself leads to disengagement. Because when you're not performing as you're supposed to, and you're starting to feel like you're running behind and falling behind on your tasks, you're not getting that sense of reward. So when the reduction in productivity is combined with the inability for our clients to be able to work at the level they know they can, that's what happened in the story at the beginning. There was a real erosion on that sense of person, that sense of self-worth, and their ability to complete their jobs. Now, because separation and divorce is not widely talked about in the workplace, you might have a client come to you, and they might not yet have told their work what's going on. Perhaps those communication channels aren't readily available. Perhaps they need your help to muster the courage and to have a practice at having that conversation. But if they have not told their employer, and these things are happening, then the employer may see those as an issue in performance. And then performance issue proceedings might begin against them. So it's really important as a coach that you're having those discussions with your client. Have they opened those communication channels? Do they know where to go to have those communication channels? What conversation would that look like? And if this is you going through it, have a little think yourself, because that's the last thing we need adding on to our client's shoulders is then disciplinary proceedings because of performance. So with everything that's going on, as I've just described, this can lead to professional relationship discord. Because we're stressed, because our clients are anxious, there is that decreased tolerance for stress, the low mood. People don't sleep going through this process for much of the time. And this can really impact our clients' ability to work as a team. So just to really reiterate, those conversations in the workplace, I know they are daunting, but really encourage our clients to have them. So the next thing I'd like to touch on is something called absenteeism. But is it, I've put? If you are in the world of looking at divorce and separation through a business or corporate lens, you might hear people talking about absenteeism. But I would like to say, I'm not sure it is. So absenteeism is the practice of regularly staying away from work without good reason. Now, as we've already seen in those first lots of statistics, people aren't as engaged. People do need to be away from work. But I beg the question, the good reason. Is that not a good reason? The fact their life is falling apart around them and they are in charge of managing it, that surely is good reason. And here are my reasons that it's a good reason. We've already mentioned you're managing the financial meetings, be in person, be it online. There is the time, but there's also the mental process of getting there, of looking through the paperwork, looking through the figures. That leads to that mental overload. And we all know the analogy of when the plane's going down, we put on our oxygen mask first. That's why sometimes this mental overload needs to have some buffer space around it. Caring responsibilities might change. And if our clients have got children, then we have the added pressure of understanding and supporting our children. Now, as a mediator champion, and as Mel is a mediator herself now, and probably many of you, others of you here, a massive advocate for mediation and the important role it can play in the process of divorce. That also means time out of work. Now, health issues, we will touch on this again shortly. But there are the mental load, but there's also the physical aspects of going through separation and divorce, which may also mean time is needed out of the workplace. So before I touch on the health issues, I'm going to look at one aspect of the mental load through the lens of work. The reason I've chosen to look at the financial concerns is because finances and work are intrinsically linked. Work is the reason you will have that maybe financial stability. But the financial concerns can be heavy. So there's that constant question, that number one, the possible implications, goes back to that mental load. What if? What if I do? Do I need more hours? Do I need to be at school? It's all whirring around all the time as perhaps the for me changes, perhaps figures are changed from your partner, perhaps proposals are changing. This leads to a sense of instability and uncertainty, not just in their personal life outside of work, but within work. What does this mean for the money that I can earn? Does this mean the way that I can earn money has to change? And so that might lead to our clients needing to explore additional hours that perhaps work better around new childcare arrangements, or potentially they might need a new job. Now that job might be to do with hours, but actually, if we go back to what I was saying about those channels of communication, what that is indicative of is an environment within the workplace which allows for meaningful conversations to take place. If our clients are in an environment where that is not facilitated, they might want to move to a workplace where they feel they have that support. So there could be multiple reasons. Now, we've mentioned childcare commitments. The financial concerns here is double, well, probably multi-layered, but we'll look at two. So first of all, we have childcare commitments that might mean that our clients have to be at work at different times. Childcare commitments might mean different financial needs have to be met in a different way, which can impact the amount of money that is required by our clients. So really, we're dealing with a double-edged sword here and having to navigate that with our clients. Now, if you combine all of this and you look at the extra hours somebody needs, maybe a change in job, what is that going to potentially impact? Performance. If performance is impacted and those conversations haven't been had, what's going to happen? Let's go all the way around to the yellow dot. It could compromise any or all jobs. And what happens then? We do not want that to happen for our clients. And if you are going through this transition now, seek help, seek support, and let's have those conversations so that it doesn't happen. Now, we've had a quick look at the mental load. Let's just touch quickly on the physical symptoms that people can experience that will directly impact their work. So this is not just me putting it out there from experience, although everybody here who has worked with clients, I'm sure will relate to all of these. But scientifically, 60% of people report having physical symptoms. I think if I was to ask my current cohort of clients how many people suffer physical symptoms, I'm thinking it's going to be over 99%, because I don't think I have one client that hasn't reported an inability to sleep, that they're exhausted mentally, that they perhaps have more headaches. So that's an interesting statistic, 60%. I think we're a little bit low there. Now, we have these first four: fatigue, headaches, digestive issues, and insomnia. They directly impact work at that moment. Now, you might wonder why digestive issues are on there. Now, we know, again, scientifically, that mental load, stress, chronic stress, emotional instability, that manifests itself for everybody, but at different levels in digestion, in our gut. So I think it's really important that when we're working with clients, just on a side note, and they perhaps talk about their children complaining of a tummy ache before school, and they haven't got an illness, maybe explore with them, well, do you know that tummy aches can be manifest because of the emotional strain, the stress? Sorry, off on a side point there. Back on. So cancers and strokes. So we know statistically that there is an increased risk of developing viral infections, anxiety-related issues. But after divorce, women, unfortunately, face a 20% increase in breast cancer. And they're significantly at higher risk of advanced uterine cancer. I didn't realise the data was out there that showed this correlation so starkly. Divorced men suffer higher rates of lung, bladder, and pancreatic cancer. So I think what's really important to say is that as coaches, if we can help our clients to work through this process with greater clarity, with greater empowerment, and as that sounding board, then we are going to help not only them in the moment, but we are having long-lasting positive impacts. And that I feel so grateful for that and very aware that that is the role that we have to play. And so let's think. I'm going to give you one thing that as a coach, you can think about supporting your clients with, and that is coping mechanisms. Now, I could spend 2 hours talking about coping mechanisms. I'm going to shove it down to 1 minute. So looking at coping mechanisms, we have as coaches an arsenal of tools to help our clients. But what I want to show you today is the way in which providing coping mechanisms will support them at work. So the first thing, and I can't impress this enough on you, this is probably the third time, communication with the employer. Work out ways that you can open up that communication with their more senior people at work. Boundary setting is really hard in this process. Even harder if you're working with a client who has come out of a relationship of coercive control or some kind of abuse. So a lot of work needs to be done then for everybody, but particularly that group of clients. Support seeking from co-workers. Mel mentioned this, and Mel, I think you talked about it in like a stakeholder map, but that idea that you look at your map of people. Who have I got and what support can they provide to me? Everybody can provide different types of support. You're not going to have an all-in-one. Not even your mum or best friend is going to be the all-in-one. You need to find and help your clients to find who are the people that can offer what the support in which ways. Now, if your clients are part of a larger organization, they will have plans in place within HR that can support them. So seek them out. Developing the practices of self-care, which I love to do because everyone's different. Some people love to go for a 10-mile run as fast as they can, and others will sit for 2 hours in the bath. But you need to really uncover those. Organizational skills, working options, and confidence building. The confidence building goes hand in hand with the working options and the communication, because when all those are opened up, they're going to have much more meaningful dialogue and find a way that works better in the workplace. I mean, there's not much for us to do, is there? But I think the most important thing to say is, although it is stark, we've talked about 95% of people suffer mental health problems at work. We talked about 11% of people having to leave the workplace altogether. We've talked about cancer and strokes and fatigue. But what is so empowering for us and our clients is that this is transitionary. This is not a fixed state. And I think for myself, as somebody that works with organizations, is to really remind them of this. Our client, their employee, yes, might be a bit off kilter for a little while. But do you know what? If we can, and if those organizations and those workplaces can support people in the most efficient and effective way possible, we know that there is going to be an increase in self-confidence and self-esteem. And do you know why? Because our clients will have had to have faced and will have overcome challenges that they didn't even know they could. We know that particularly for women, there is going to be career advancement and financial independence. Granted, this might be fueled by all-out fear. Perhaps our client is now the sole financial provider for their family. But the point is whether fueled by fear or the fact that they've found this sense of self-empowerment and self-value and have built this amazing network, this is incredible. And it's going to lead to advancements in adaptivity and resilience. Oh my goodness, I've got some typos. How did I miss those? And you've got a robust and wide-reaching support system. So I've had clients that have reported asking all kinds of people, all kinds of things they didn't even know that they would need to. And that leads to a sense of empowerment and a sense of self-worth that people want to help. So I think when we're working with clients or we're working with organizations, we shouldn't shy away from acknowledging and validating how hard it is. But our clients and anybody out there today who's sitting here listening to this, having been going through this transition, right now, today, you have survived 100% of your hardest days. That is incredible. And I think it's really important to remember that. So if you want some resources, where can you go? So you will all be familiar, or any divorce coaches out there will be familiar of Relate, The Parenting Promise, and Only Mums and Dads. Only Mums and Dads is absolutely fantastic. The resources and the work that they do is great. Same for The Parenting Promise. The reason I have relate on there is because I have clients who come to me who don't have children. And you may have noticed that actually the majority of information out there has a focus on parents that are separating. And that group of clients sometimes feel a little bit, well, where's my place in this? Just because I've not got kids doesn't mean this is really hard. And if you wanted a free self-care guide, either for yourselves or for your clients, then pop over to my website and you'll find that there. It has been a super speedy whistle-stop tour of work capabilities. I know I've covered a lot very quickly. I've given you breadth rather than depth, but I hope you found it useful and interesting. And if anybody does have any questions, I'm going to try and stop sharing my screen, and I'm happy to answer any you may have.